Hey, we are going to get our meeting underway. If we could have your attention here at the front. And once again, we have our Community Development Director, Jeremy Pagan, to kick things off. Jeremy?
Well, good evening, everyone, and thanks for being here for our third meeting of 4 of the Riverfront Specific Plan Community Coalition. Appreciate the coalition sticking with us and being here tonight. I think we got most of us here. Also, appreciation to our community members who are in attendance, as well as those that are viewing online too. Fortunate enough to have our same staff that I've introduced before here tonight, as well as some of our council members. We have Vice Mayor Mark Mazzano in the back, as well as Council Member Julie Winter. So happy to have them both here to be a part of this evening as we have this third meeting. And I think I covered my bases here in terms of city staff. So I wanted to just spend a couple minutes at the top of the meeting to address the 3 questions that came up at our last meeting regarding Park Marina. So I'm just going to take a couple minutes to give you updates. I did send an email to the coalition members here this morning to give you some of those documents, but for everyone here that's in the audience and viewing at home, I want to just provide you with a couple of quick details. So regarding the Turtle Bay to downtown active transportation project, that is a project that's at about a 60% design right now. That project, I don't have a slide for it, but really what it does is it extends bike and ped access across Sundial Bridge overpass. It also connects bike ped from the east side, or I should say from the north side there, into the convention center and over across the Turtle Bay. And so they're calling it the Turtle Bay Gap Connection Project. Those drawings that I sent the coalition are about a 60%. It's funded for construction in 2025. And so that bike ped project has grant funding secured, but the funding doesn't come into play until 2025. So likely we'll finish design sometime later this year, early 2020, probably mid 2024, so late 2024. That'll go out to bid for construction, and it's scheduled to be constructed in 2025. Again, I'll put a caveat here that if you have specific questions on these, coalition members, please feel free to shoot me an email. Community members, we can address it later on in public comment. Just trying to keep it really high level just to tee up those topics for us tonight. The Park Marina speed study came up at our last coalition meeting as well. That's governed by the California Vehicle Code. The last one was actually conducted just in 2022. And so the Park Marina corridor was studied then. The prevailing speeds, as the vehicle code says, we're in the neighborhood of 38 to 40 miles per hour. The biggest takeaway at a very high level is that the last time that corridor was studied, the speed limits did not change. And so that went to council, I think in August of 2022, if I've got my facts straight. And when that went to council by ordinance, they adopted to keep the speed limits the same on Park Marina Drive. So as of the last study, nothing changed in terms of speed limits on the Park Marina corridor. Lastly, the Park Marina Corridor Study is a concurrent planning effort that we're working on as a city right now. That study is not ready for publication, which is why I didn't share it with you all via email. But the takeaways there are that corridor is largely the same study area as we've been talking about, the Park Marina Corridor from Park View all the way north to the Sundial Bridge Road. It's exploring bike ped pathways along. They explored options around the ACID canal. They explored options around private property that fronts up to the river. But largely what you're going to see when that does get published is alternatives that focus on potential restriping of the Park Marina Drive corridor to like a 3-lane section, and the possibility for some bike ped and or cycle track along the Park Marina corridor. There was visioning workshops in 2020, options workshops in 2021. This was all done during COVID, so those were all online Zoom meetings. Generally speaking, that's what the plan is sort of veering towards, is a 3-lane section, which has adequate capacity for a level of service of C, which is what we shoot for, all the way through the 2040 planning horizon. So that's just a real brief overview of that study. It's going to be finalized soon and going to council for their approval and for them to look at. But that gives you an idea where we're at. It's gone through a couple iterations with our consultant, and it's yet to be finalized, but that's generally where things look to be heading with the Park Marina Drive corridor. The ultimate plan, of course, we'd love to have a riverfront trail there, and that's going to be part of this discussion. But of course, that involves private properties all up and down the river and some of that. So in the meantime, the interim plan could look like something like a restriped section with bike ped along the eastern side of Park Marina Drive, heading from south to north. So again, we'll have a final study coming soon, and I'll update you as I can. But I just wanted to answer some of those high-level questions from last meeting. And with that, if you have specific questions, come see me after the meeting, or I'm happy to email you all specifically more information. But I don't want to go further than that now because we got a lot to get to here this evening. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Daniel to get us going. So thank you for coming tonight.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeremy and city staff. We appreciate your support here with the Community Coalition process and the Riverfront specific plan. Again, I'm Daniel Isofano. I'm here with my colleagues, Dan Amsden and Christine Thompson. We'd like to update you on what we discussed last time, but also some additional information about facilities will be provided by Travis here with the city staff. So just tonight, again, we'll be touching on a few more additional pieces of information regarding existing conditions, but most of the discussion will be, once again, refining the vision elements and the guiding principles that go along with that. And then we'll have our traditional public comment period at the end, and hopefully just a quick review of next steps. Just to highlight once again, the process that we're going through. I like to think that at this point, we're just getting the family in the car. We're looking at the map as to where we're going on vacation, but we haven't left the driveway yet. We're still at the very beginning of this process. And so we have a long way to go. We had envisioned this to be a 2-year process, and we had suggested, and the city council agreed to have this community coalition at the very front end in order that you have a chance as community members to lay out a big picture, vision, guiding principles, things we should keep in mind as we go into detail and develop the specific plan. But this is not the specific plan itself. It's a framework to guide its creation. And so that's what you see there up on the screen. We will be having additional meetings with community groups and neighborhoods throughout the city, pop-up events and design charrettes. That's a bit further on in the process, as you see here along the timeline that's illustrated on this line there. And then, of course, a whole number of city commission, city council reviews and study sessions all the way to the end of this process. That should take us well into 2025, as you can see here on this flow chart. Just to remind you, at our last coalition meeting 2 weeks ago, we covered a number of topics, specifically the existing conditions, and some of the comments that were made by all of you just were already addressed by Jeremy in his opening remarks regarding Park Marina and the traffic speeds there and what we need to do to improve conditions there for homeowners and residents along there. It was also suggested that we eventually bring in case studies of different venues that apply to a riverine environment like this, especially given our environmental sensitivities around the use of activities in and around the river, and we will be doing that. So thank you for that suggestion. We haven't yet started on that quest, but we will be putting that material together in the course of the planning effort. Was also requested that we release the biological report once it's finalized, which we will do that. That work has been initiated, but it's far from completion. And then also the economic impact of the facilities we have up there, notably the Civic Auditorium and the rodeo. We are also going to ask our economic consultants to delve into that and provide an objective view of those facilities in that regard. It was suggested we reach out to the Cool April Nights groups to better understand how they operate and what they might want to see in an improved set of venues. And then the noise policies were brought up as something we should look at in relation to the specific plan area, especially in light of any impacts that might have on residents and also the ecosystems in and around the specific plan. We covered in some depth the vision element framework, and we have made the revisions that you've suggested in the last meeting. We'll get into that momentarily, but first, you recall we had the notes up here. We did our best to transcribe and take any of those notes, convert them into specific changes to the vision element document. And you should all have a copy of that at this point. We handed that out. Latest revision, hot off the press, and we're going to review that with all of you this evening as the main part of our discussion. So stay tuned. We also heard a lot from community members who came up to the podium. We like to keep track of that as well. Obviously, there was concern about surplus property and not wanting to see the city dispense of those, that we want to make sure that the riverfront amenities remain accessible and inclusive to all residents, provide adequate parking, make sure that we're maintaining Reading's small town character. We heard that a lot from the speakers who came in at the end of the meeting. Making sure we have a versatile venue that can host many different kinds of events and different interests. And once again, comments about the vehicular traffic, especially down around Park Marina Drive. And maybe we can do something to find ways to incorporate housing along the southern part of the riverfront. So those were just a recap of what the speakers said at the very end of the meeting. And we like to make sure everyone has a record of those comments as well. So with that, I'm going to bring up Travis to talk about a few additional points that were asked in relation to existing facilities there. So Travis, why don't you take over here?
I don't have 3 hands.
Okay, I'll do it.
It's fine. I need my notes, so sorry. All right, so city facility. So I'm Travis Minnie. I'm the Community Services Director, which is a new title for me, so I had to think about it for a second. But we are primarily responsible for city management and ownership of the facilities on the north half of the study area, and one little parcel, the little Park Marina parcel, which we'll get to last. But you know, we'll run through. So there's 8 total of these sites, and we'll just kind of click down the list, and I'll give you a couple bullet points about each one and the relationship and kind of how that works and the timelines and things like that. So starting with the rodeo grounds, the rodeo grounds are owned by the city and leased to the Reading Rodeo Association. And they have a very minimal lease payments, $50 annually. But there's some differences between theirs and other agreements. So I'll highlight those as we go through as well. So they've been active for 75 years. And their lease currently runs through 2026. And I will note that tomorrow night, City Council is going to consider extending that by 3 years, which would be through August 2029. And so the difference, what I'll point out with them is that they're responsible for 100% of the maintenance of that facility. So as opposed to the Civic Auditorium, there's a shared maintenance responsibility between the city and the Civic and Advanced Reading, who has to maintain the interior of the building, versus this one where, again, they're solely responsible for all of the maintenance there. All right, so let's go on to the next one. The boat ramp. So the boat ramp is owned and operated by the city, built in 1969, although I have seen some aerial photos and it looks like people were using kind of an informal boat launch there before. And I think I heard someone say back in the 50s, they had launched a boat there. So it may end. I think that was just the original project for construction. So this is actually slated to be rebuilt in the future, but right now we only have funding for design. So we have a $311,000 grant to do a redesign of the facility, but it does not fund any construction at this time. So it would be basically more capacity, more parking, better restrooms. If anyone's been down there, they know that a lot of that stuff is dated and it can use some help. So we're redesigning that with the intent that we would go out and seek grant funding to build that around the year 2027 is our timeline right now. We'll go ahead to the next one. Looks like Civic Auditorium. So Civic Auditorium opened in 1970. And that is leased with by Advanced Reading. Their lease runs out December 2031. Their lease payment varies on the high side around $22,000, on the low side $10,000. So there's kind of a sliding scale on there. In general, it's $10,000 a month. So, but they also have a large maintenance role with the interior of the building, and we have a lot of property associated with the building they also have to take care of and maintain and things like that. So I think that's about it, unless there's anything specific that glaring that I left out about either the rodeo grounds or the Civic. Okay.
Okay, remember you have to turn on.
Okay, so the contracted lease rate is adjustable by CPI. So yeah.
Okay.
So $26,000 a month. Turtle Bay history, Sundial Bridge. So the Sundial Bridge was opened in 2004. We'll be celebrating 20 years of that bridge in 2024. So we're gonna have a big party for that, hopefully. Final cost was $23.5 million. Originally, we budgeted for $3 million pedestrian bridge across the river. Plans kind of changed and evolved, and we brought partners in and we're able to fund a lot larger, more grandiose structure. And I think now everyone's when you look around the amount of businesses with the name Sundial in them, I think that we can all agree that was probably a good idea for that spot. But the city partners with Turtle Bay to maintain that facility, and it's within their lease area. So they actually receive some funding from the city to do that maintenance work on our behalf. There are also facility reservations. You know, we have a lot of lighting and different celebrations and stuff that occur around there. So that's kind of a collaborative effort between us and Turtle Bay. We own the bridge, and then there is some ownership by the McConnell Foundation on the other side. So it's a little tough to understand there, but there was a lot of agreements that kind of made that whole thing happen. And like I said, the day-to-day maintenance is through Turtle Bay. And in terms of Turtle Bay partnership, so we own the land underneath Turtle Bay, and they have a lease that was started in 1991. It runs 55 years. So that's up in the year 2046. We did sell off a little piece of land to Turtle Bay for the hospitality area, which is where the Sheraton is now. So they own a chunk of land out there, and they're kind of surrounded by city ownership. We also out there have the River Trail, obviously, and Riverfront Park. So Riverfront Park is our park with a amphitheater, as well as some restrooms. The River Trail runs through there, and we just recently completed a large restoration project. So I wanted to also mention that not only are we in charge of the facilities and their maintenance, and those relationships are also in charge of the environment down there. So we do a lot of restoration projects. We do a lot of invasive species management and stuff like that. So that's also a lot to bite off as well in terms of city maintenance responsibilities. Other than that, we have the old CVB building, which is currently leased by the Shasta EDC. And I think they have at least another year on their lease there. Generally, we issue requests for proposals to get another lease if they do not take that option in the future. So we'll find someone else to take that over. That would be the first building as you kind of come into the campus on the north half to the left, sort of on that road with the Viking skate country and the news station. The Sacramento River Trail, so they're running from Sundial Bridge through the bird sanctuary and all of that area out to Highway 44. And the only property we own on the south area of this study area is the little parcel on Park Marina. And so we had to figure out what that was. It's actually an old park dedication. I think it was like 0.3 acres. It's very tiny, and it's just a random lot along Park Marina. So that is all we know about that right now. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot of various different components of each kind of property has its own specific mechanics behind it, its own specific relationship, own agreements, own funding sources, own uses. So it's a very nuanced area as you kind of go through the whole thing. But generally that falls within the community services department to figure it out and manage those relationships. And that's about it.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much, Travis. I think that hopefully answers the questions that came up in regards to facilities. And as Jeremy said at the outset, if you have additional ones, please email the staff. We'll bring that information to the next coalition meeting and make sure that it ends up on the website for the Riverfront specific plan. So with that, we wanted to get right into the main focus for this evening's meeting, which is to further discuss and revise as necessary the vision framework. You have copies of that in front of you, and we have slides on the screen that represent and correspond to all the pages in your handout. And we just also wanted to further check with you to make sure that we captured your comments and edits correctly. And there may be additional things that you want to modify on this emerging vision framework. As I said earlier, this is not the specific plan that we're writing here this evening. This is a guiding principle document that helps us to eventually shape the plan and also to better define some of the technical work that we'll be doing along the way. We still have about 2 years to go on this specific planning effort. So you recall we have identified 7 major categories or vision elements, as we're calling them. And under each, we have what were a series of bullet points, and we've just numbered those to allow us to call them out specifically and to give you, again, another chance to comment and refine these statements. So we start with a healthy and resilient natural environment. And then we have these 7 principles that were identified over the course of the last 2 meetings. We also did incorporate the thoughts and ideas that were expressed by the community members who attended the first 2 community open houses that were at the Civic Auditorium, as you recall. So we have tried to build all of that feedback into a concise document that hopefully will serve to guide the consultant team members as well as city staff and all of you in the community as we move forward in the specific plan. So under this heading of a healthy and resilient natural environment, we're talking about what you said earlier, celebrating the immense natural beauty of the Sacramento River and Reading Riverfront area. You want us to ensure that we protect and restore sensitive natural communities. And that highlighted area in the green, that was an edit that came about from our previous discussion. And that's in order to support the biodiversity there and the health of the Sacramento River ecosystem. It was also said under A3, we want to create opportunities for native fish, animals, and birds to thrive throughout their entire life cycles. On A4, it was to require development and activities near the Sacramento River and or critical habitat areas to be compatible, complementary. So there's not a deleterious effect of development on the natural environment and the ecosystems there contained. And then these last 3 were, again, additions that came about from the discussion at our last meeting 2 weeks ago. Mitigate noise and light impacts on sensitive natural communities. And that's certainly an issue that we've encountered elsewhere as we worked on other river system plans, notably the Sacramento River, the Trinity River in Texas, the lower LA River. Believe it or not, that's a highly concrete river, but they're trying to make that a more natural setting, but they've got a long way to go there. Identifying opportunities to create more open space to support the rewilding was a term that came up last meeting. And so we wanted to include that. And then to make sure we comply with all statutory and regulatory requirements that would apply to this riverfront area. So I just want to pause there and again, provide opportunities for any of you to have additional comments, make any further edits and so on as a result of the compilation here that we've put forward based on last meeting. Any comments, any additions that you want to bring up for this part of the vision element? Yeah, remember the mic rules. You have to speak into the mic so our people watching and listening online can hear you all. And so just pull the mic up close to you and it has to show green for the mic to be working. So any comments on this section A of the vision framework? Hopefully we've captured this well enough. And again, you can think about this isn't the last time you have a chance to look at it. The B item was about respecting the indigenous community, past, present, and future. And there we identified 5 principles to honor the deep indigenous cultural connections to the Reading Riverfront area, engage the indigenous community, include them in land use, habitat protection, recreation, and cultural landscapes, the discussion and decisions that affect those things. And again, we're doing our best to reach out to those communities as we speak. And we have a sub-consultant working for us who specializes in that outreach, as well as within our own company, we have a Native Nations building studio that has done a lot of work with Native communities and tribes throughout the state and throughout the western states here in the United States. We want to protect indigenous sacred sites and cultural resources, to maintain indigenous connections and access to land, river, and animals, and to create opportunities for indigenous owned and operated cultural centers and spaces. So those are things that we've collected from our one-on-one interviews with representatives of indigenous communities in the area. And we hope to continue that dialogue and discussion as well. Any additional points? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Really quick.
Sure.
Number
Josh?
one, I like the fact that the word honor is highlighted. I think that's important. One on B5, I wonder if we ought to say create opportunities for partnerships with, because there could be partnerships that just a
That's a
little
great-
broader.
That's a great point. Yeah,
Yeah.
we will definitely include that as another way in which we can be working together in a productive relationship. Excellent. Thank you. Okay, and Dan is going to
And
take
I just want to
notes
state that
as
the
we
Reading
go along.
Rodeos already has that partnership. They already use the rodeo grounds as well.
Okay,
In fact, just a few weeks ago.
that's a good example. Thank you, Baron. Okay. The next element has to do with economically viable and thriving arts, cultural, and entertainment venues. And so that includes these 4 guiding principles. One is to allow for a range of activities, events, and programs through multifaceted, flexible venues. That seems to be a general trend in venue development and creation around the country. To ensure that new venues and destinations are scaled and programmed to address local and visitor desires while also being economically viable. Ensure that new venues and destinations are designed in such a way that they are efficient to maintain and operate, supporting their long-term financial success. Obviously, that's a critical concern to the city and any of the partners that are involved in the venue creation, maintenance, and operation. And then C4 was to support the viability and success of the Reading Rodeo as a key part of the unique history and identity of Reading. So that's where we left it last time, those 4 principles there. We added C3 to the list. Okay, any comments on that section? All right. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Okay, let's see, Julie?
I'm just wondering if there's if it's appropriate for what these principles are for there to be included some sort of recognition on this piece in particular about how Reading serves as a kind of cultural hub for the entire North State. So it's not just something that's important to our community, but it is one of the ways that we help support kind of a way of life from between us and the Oregon border and beyond. So
I was going to say the next major city would be Medford or Eugene or
Medford, but
yeah.
we still have a larger venue than here at the Civic Auditorium anyway than what is there. You actually have to go to Eugene to get
Yeah.
to the next sizable venue. So we pull from a large radius but very particular, the 13
Mhm.
most northern counties are predominantly the area we serve.
That's excellent, right? And Dan's making note of that. We'll work that language into the next iteration here. Todd?
The specific plan or this process might not be the right venue, but I'm curious to know like how the original funding was for the Civic, kind of how much it cost, what it looks like in today's dollars, because we can do the specific plan, but maybe that's the next step, figuring out how we're actually going to pay for this stuff.
Well, that is one of the next steps to be sure. I don't know if Jeremy, you have the answer to
You don't
that.
have to
but
go
we'll-
way into it right now.
We probably have to go deep into our archives to get the full story, but Travis wait. Hold it. There we go. Here's got to get the mic.
All right, so we have archive files from back before it was run by Advanced Reading. We'll say it wasn't successful, wasn't sustainable eventually, because we did have to end up going with a outside contractor. I think it's a lot more easy and flexible to have someone else do that. But I will also say the building maintenance component of that is substantial. We're looking at HVAC replacements on a 70-year-old building, and it's, you know, potentially $2 million. So that structure itself, I wouldn't say is something that's super sustainable at the current level, especially if the city has to pay city expense to keep running it, which is why we have a partner to help do that. I don't know if you want to add to that at all.
A little bit. It was, I believe the final tally of what it cost the city to build the building back in between 68 and 70 was something like between 2.8 and $3.2 million. I have no idea what that is in today's dollars, but I'm sure it's add a couple of zeros to the end of that. And I would, well, Travis and I haven't met yet in his new position, so. But I do actually think that the city over the long term actually has been a fairly efficient structure. Because there actually really hasn't, in the terms of a 50-plus-year-old building, there actually, if you take the aggregated cost over time for maintenance and capital improvement, it's actually been fairly low. So it's actually been a pretty viable building, and it is currently functioning at a economically viable way. So
Okay, very good. Thank you. Michelle has a comment. The mic, sorry.
I understand why you have highlighted the Reading Rodeo and are giving a nod to its unique history and identity. However, I'm wondering if that we shouldn't broaden that, because the Cool April Nights event, for one, is a huge economic powerhouse for this community. The Civic Auditorium creates activity, draws people from other areas outside of the immediate city environs. And I'm sure there's other things that people could think of too, but I think that probably needs to be broadened so that we can support those that programming as well.
Absolutely. That's a great suggestion. Yeah, because it's really all part of the economic viability of whatever we put up there on the riverfront. Christina?
Yeah, I was just letting you know, she kind of took the words out of my mouth. I love the rodeo, but it is the only actual sort of business or venue that is specifically called out in this entire plan. So
Right.
Not that we don't want to support it, but it does come off as favoritism. I'm just going to say that we want to be equal and support all of them.
Yeah.
It's not that we don't, but it's reading it. I'm like, wow, that's the only actual thing
So
that's called out
with-
in this plan.
Along with what Michelle was
Yeah,
saying, we
very
should
much
list
so.
the other
Absolutely.
events that are well known and part of our cultural heritage. Okay, great. Good. Additional comments? Yeah. Ben?
I grew up down in the Paso Robles area where the California Mid-State Fair has actually worked there. And there was a beautiful coordination of that facility with the rodeo, with concerts. It's an amazing juggernaut of financial income, but some coordination between the Civic and the rodeo might be a good idea.
Okay, and you say Paso Robles, is that still operating today?
Yeah, it's a 2-week-long fair. It's like you took Anderson and Shasta District Fair and the rodeo and the concerts. I mean, Michael Jackson performed there back when I was a kid. So if that gives you an idea of the size.
Wow, okay. Well, it was mentioned in the comments that you gave last time that we should do some case study research on these other venues. So that's a great case. We may want to take a look at it. It's here in our own state, so let's see how they're functioning. Okay, a couple other hands up, Jocelyn and Leslie, go ahead.
So I have a couple of questions. I'm curious if anyone can speak to the number of rooms, for one thing, that the Civic can be broken into for, say, conferences, for example. Because I just attended a 5-day conference in Albuquerque, New Mexico at their conference center, and they have 2 buildings that are connected. And I sat in a meeting with the national board members, and they were discussing how they would love to come to California, but they cannot afford anywhere in California. And with that being the case, Reading is a more affordable destination that conference goers could afford hotels. And because I mean, as a
Interesting.
this was a music education conference. So as a music educator, no, we can't go and afford hotels for 4 days in New York and different places like that.
Chicago, yeah.
But they're also saying they can't afford it in San Francisco, Sacramento, places like that. And when we have such a beautiful location and such a beautiful venue, and if we brought, I mean, you're talking thousands of music educators to this area to enjoy this area and use our civic center or something like that, and other organizations to use, that might be a wonderful thing to consider
Mhm.
looking into actually expanding our civic center or updating it. I mean, if it's the size that organizations can actually utilize now, or if we did some modifications use in the future, I mean, we could also become a beautiful conference destination hub.
Mhm. That's an interesting idea because there are different tiers in the convention going world, A, B, C, and maybe we can fit more comfortably in one of those
Yeah,
lower ones and offer a great experience at a more reasonable price.
right.
And that could be our market sweet spot. We should look into that.
Yeah. And I
Okay.
mean, in terms of like, I know I've thrown it out before, but in terms of sustainable, pays for itself kind of thing, on the backside of the Civic, between the Civic and essentially the Sundial Bridge, there's that dirt parking lot. You could build a beautiful
Mhm.
multi-tier parking structure, charge $1. I mean, it doesn't matter. Over time, it pays for itself and still can, brings revenue in. And then you've got parking for the Civic and all the things that are kind of complaints and hubs. It's hidden behind the Civic, so it's not an eyesore.
Mhm.
And you solve some of the problems with the heat and cars and what have you. I mean,
Right.
just as a,
Okay,
and it supports all the surrounding venues there.
right.
So,
Well, we
anyway.
won't be doing the site planning tonight, but I get your point. We'll be looking at those different options to be sure. Leslie.
I just, more of just a highlight than anything else, but this area that we're talking about, particularly on the northern side, is part of the Reading Cultural District, which is one of 14 California state recognized cultural districts in the state of California. So it's just something to keep in mind. I don't know that it needs to live here, but something we should be proud of and highlight.
What are some of the other so named cultural districts? Do you have that? No, well, we'll come back to you. Do you have it
I
there?
do actually. Close by the other rural districts, there are 3 additional: Grass Valley in Nevada City, Truckee Cultural District, Eureka Cultural Arts District, and then from there, they're in the Bay Area, and the rest are in Southern California.
Okay,
So-
interesting. Yeah, those are good reference points. Thank you. Let's see, Josh.
Just really quick. So one of the things I think we might want to add here, we talk about arts, but there's no, I mean, arts is pretty broad. But one of the things that I'm thinking of is, and for instance, there's a lot of different, Travis can probably talk to this, where the Parks Department, Community Services Department actually gets artists to come in, and as part of a project, there's artwork that's done, or there's
Mhm.
paintings that's done, there's murals that are being done.
Artifacts are being
Yeah,
created.
and,
Yeah.
so for like when the city designs a park, there may be an artist that comes in and designs something. So there's actual, I don't even know what to call it, but public art. There you go.
Okay.
But the way that it is, I like the way that it is, but it almost seems like it's just focused on the performing arts.
Yeah.
And that's broader. It includes, there's a lot of different components that go into, and we should not forget about the fact that we have, it's not performance arts, it's
No, it's public art. I was
public
not-
art. There we,
Yeah.
I mean,
That's a great idea. We have tons of minerals.
yeah.
Melissa,
Yeah,
Mike,
please.
Okay.
microphone.
I'm stumbling over what I'm trying.
Well, it's it's one thing when I saw this, there wasn't anything about art, public art. And I was just thinking of, we're not going to do what's in Chicago, but the Millennial Beam. I'm from Chicagoland area.
I know.
And it's amazing, and we have a lot of great local artists and tons of murals that are going up. And for art, I think it's pretty cheap. And so, yeah, we should highlight our local artists.
Mhm.
And it'd be great to have some public art along the waterfront. It doesn't have to be like to $10 million beam or whatever it was.
Yeah.
I think it was like $26 million and also went over budget like the sundial. I actually, there's something in British Columbia that's pretty cool. It's just like 30, I think in Vancouver, it's like 30-foot orca that's made out of white and black blocks. And it's really strange looking. It's like it's like a pixelated and it's
Yeah.
something that's for the most part kind of low budget, but it highlights, you know, the waterfront there. So
Mhm.
I guess we should I would love to have some public art along the waterfront that, you know,
Right.
exemplifies our artists and the river. So,
Excellent. Yeah,
sorry.
well, I'm really glad to see us flesh this area out. So we're gonna take your comments here and add to the section for the next iteration. Okay, but, oh yeah, go ahead, Julie.
I do think, if memory serves, at the point when the downtown specific plan was developed, it was right after we had been awarded the cultural district designation. So there is some language in the downtown specific plan, if memory serves, around the cultural district. So that it is good that she brought that up because there could be some crossover of language that we just need to make sure gets
Mhm.
reflected in both plans,
Good.
since
Okay,
there's
great
bleed
to
over.
know there's that history here. Okay, Jocelyn?
To piggyback on that, I mean, we should be contacting the Shasta Arts Council, and Nancy Hill is in charge of that.
Mhm.
And I know John Truitt is very active with that. And I think that John Truitt especially is a key player that should be brought into this conversation. And especially around the arts and having arts, because he's been a big key player in getting a lot of
Mhm.
the murals documented, especially getting the murals documented before the previous parking structure was taken down for the new buildings. So
Mhm.
and I know the Wintu tribe, a tribal member was who painted the mural on the side of the Cascade Theater. So possibly having reaching out to the Wintu tribe, I think, and seeing if they would be interested in putting more art up would also be another wonderful way to honor their
Culture.
tribe, the culture, and the art.
Yeah, excellent. Very good. Okay. Thank you very much. We will do some more work on this section to be sure. Okay, we talked about appropriate scale and uses. And so here are a number of things that popped up and were edits to the original text that we looked at last meeting. So we said require new buildings and uses to reflect the scale and character of Reading. This is not a giant city. This is a smaller town, and I think that sentiment came across. Design community destinations that are safe, well lit, easy to access, and ADA accessible. They must be. And then D3 and D4, we separated sort of the northern and the southern riverfront because there are distinct areas, as we noted in our earlier discussions. So creating more vibrant and active public uses to support locals and visitors up on the northern side, and also ways to maintain or reduce developed site coverage. So there's ways to do that with sensitive design, environmentally friendly design, and also designs of structures that use less energy and are more compatible with those natural surroundings. Whereas on the southern riverfront, what we heard in the commentary was to consider some limited mixed income housing to support local workforce housing needs, to consider how development on Park Marina Drive will impact existing and future circulation, to reduce congestion. That's a way to make sure we don't forget those issues there. To create opportunities for private recreation and amenities on or next to the quarry ponds. And consider additional commercial restaurants, mixed-use projects along Park Marina that are compatible with surrounding neighborhoods. So probably something, again, smaller scale is what comes to mind and more consistent with a residential neighborhood feel. So any additional comments or feedback on this section? We'll go to Michelle. Microphone. Sorry. Yeah.
Neighborhoods are not renewable resources. Once they're gone, they're gone. So I would like this document to reflect the importance of maintaining the integrity, personality of
Character,
the existing neighborhoods.
okay. Very good, thank you. Christina, and then others, Josh and Jocelyn, yeah.
Just a couple of points for the D4 1. I know it says support local workforce housing needs. Probably could just say support local housing needs. Not sure if it needs to
Don't
say
need workforce,
workforce. It's a little weirdly specific because it's just community housing
Yeah.
needs.
okay,
And then for what I don't see in this plan that I want to hope is put for the guiding principles, we have consider additional commercial restaurant and mixed use projects. But what I'm not seeing, especially on that southern side, since there's people living there, making sure we're, considering additional grocery, healthcare, education, and other essential services.
that
They don't have
serve
to be-
those. Mhm.
Yeah, we have sort of the food desert situation where we have a higher priced grocery space, but not much else there.
Mhm.
So making sure that we're supporting that actual neighborhood needs.
Right. Very good. We will make those edits. Thank you, Jocelyn.
I, I'm a little mixed feelings about the mixed income housing and all of that, just because I know that at one point there was a plan that did happen to put in low income housing that were, I mean, they were nice little, almost like single wide trailer, but homes that were 2-story. That's a nicer section that's put in there. The only thing is when you put in lower income housing, there's a statute of limitations. And once you move past that, it no longer stays low income housing. It can be sold at market value. And so, so it's a hard thing when we hear that people want to have like, oh, we need low income housing or all these things, because that actually does not stay. It's not a permanent, it doesn't stay low income housing. It can change and the scale can
Mhm.
fluctuate. So there's that. And also as a resident on the south side, I mean, I've spoken with my neighbors, and they're actually several that I did speak to were really frustrated, and they were like, oh, great, what are they going to do now? We don't want anything coming in here. We don't want buildings. We don't want, so I know that especially along Park Marina, the residents don't want to see massive change. They don't want to see restaurants and buildings and all these things go in. They truly do want to enjoy the river. And so I think really focusing on a river walk or, bike path and all of that is more of what that local community would like to see.
Mhm. So our understanding from the last conversation was that there was a desire to strengthen these residential neighborhoods to maybe add to their viability on a long-term basis, reducing traffic and other things that would.
That they want to
be-
see, but
yeah.
they don't want to see a ton of businesses come in
Mhm.
and a big change happen.
Mhm.
They want to see positive, impactful change that creates safety for their children that are
Mhm.
playing in the streets. But they don't want to see. So I
Right.
just to throw that
Well, this
there.
wording was to consider that, but it had to be, there's an issue of compatibility. So do you feel this language is appropriate, or how would you modify that?
I think it's like additional, like there's Park Marina is totally developed. It's empty also, mostly.
Yeah,
So I think that's the thing that it struck me wrong because I was like, additional, like how much more buildings do we need out there? We could revitalize them, maybe demo some, and as a big fan of like creating a little more open space because it's
Yeah.
a riverfront parks, something accessible. So I think it's the wording that when you have additional, maybe consider revitalizing what's there.
okay,
I think that's the
okay.
issue.
Well, I think that's where we would explore alternatives when we get into the details of the specific plan. You would look at potentially a range of options there, and you'd say you'd go from lower to greater density, and somewhere in the middle of that spectrum maybe is the right solution. I don't know. Until we
Well-
actually look at it on a parcel by parcel basis, it's going to be hard to determine that.
I do want to, well, just to add, I've talked to my neighbors too, and various, and they just like, we just want to enjoy the river and have, a snow cone. Like 2 of them said snow cones. They might be coming back. And they're different ages and they just
Right.
want to go down there with their grandkids or their kids. And I know it's private, so we're sort of at the whim of the private entity, but that's kind of what they want to do. It's a
Yeah.
river.
Well, again, there are certain land use entitlements that come with the existing land use and zoning on that property. So I think whatever it is, we got the sense that compatibility with the surrounding neighborhoods and with the riverine environment were key points.
I still, I totally agree with you. I don't like additional. I
Okay.
would change it to revitalize, consider revitalizing
Okay.
commercial buildings, like buildings that are already there, or demoing them. I mean, and put up something that is actually beautiful or artistic or,
Okay.
because those buildings the round buildings are so unique to our area. And I think they're actually some of the coolest spaces and buildings,
Okay.
but they're outdated.
Yeah.
And I think that stuff could be done with those to revitalize them and actually draw attention to the uniqueness
Okay.
of them.
Well, this discussion helps a lot
Yeah.
in terms of us trying to think, how do we translate words into physical form, and that would be met with support by the community. So this is a very helpful conversation in that regard. Josh, you want to jump in
Yeah,
here?
so I actually, since our last meeting, have talked with, well, let me start this. A lot of the comments that are being made today are obviously from residents and people from Reading. I spoke with several people that visit, they don't live here, they visit here for, one was a fly fish, well, 2 were fly fishermen. And a third comes here for business annually,
Mhm.
several times annually. They're also, all 3 of them, I kind of talked to them about what we were doing here. They're concerned about what they all termed as congestion.
Hmm.
So I'm glad to see that was added to D4 too. And I think it's just important that we remember that the residents are worried about that. I'm trying to alarm anybody, but that's something that we're discussing. And it's also a concern that people that we're trying to attract here are concerned about.
Mhm.
So the fly fishermen don't want to go out and share the river with,
Hordes of-
500 people.
Yeah.
So things like that. So keep that word congestion there, because I think that's kind of on everybody's mind.
Yeah, okay, that's helpful. All right. Was there anybody, let me get some other folks in here. Let's see, Garrett. And Cameron was also next.
Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate something I said at our last meeting. And it kind of falls as a counterpoint to what they've been saying. I mean, a lot of this stuff, when we get into the weeds down the road after the specific plan and you have a development coming in, that like there's going to be plenty of time to, public comment, the EIR process, everything that's going to have to take place. I think we just need to make sure that, the specific plan is flexible enough to, make sure that it allows what needs to happen down there to happen over the course of, the last one lasted 30 years. So, Reading is going to grow. And this specific plan is going to be in place long past what, is currently down there. It's bound to grow. So we need to make sure that we're not, overly restricting the city and the landowners and everyone who has, a stake down there. So
this would be, again, a perfect place where we'd be using the alternatives creation process to explore the pros and cons, and as you said, allow for flexibility. No plan could be a straitjacket. That we can't predict, much less 5 years, let alone 10 or 20 years into the future, what we're going to be seeing and living with. See, Cameron, I think, were you next? Did you have any?
Go on that. I had a question on another point.
Oh, okay.
I guess this is a counter your
So-
point to probably counter my point, is that if we're so wishy-washy and flexible, we get
what we have right now, which is 3 separate areas, downtown, Turbulent and Park
Yeah.
Marina, that are not connected. It's kind of an ad hoc
Sure.
shit show, excuse me. And so it's, I mean, I've read the 92 plan, it was actually pretty good.
Mhm.
The Park Marina, it just wasn't followed necessarily, nor was anything really done. So I wouldn't say it wasn't really followed. Nothing's been done
Mhm.
in 30 years. And so that's what we have right now.
Okay.
So it's definitely threading the needle. I get concerned when we talk about development, and is because we have a lot of empty commercial and retail spaces in Reading,
Mhm.
like downtown. And when we talk, that's why the additional like D44 is like, oh my God, like, do we need any more? You know, because you might have newer storefronts, but then you're taking someone from Hilltop there because it's a cooler place, but then we have now a vacancy on Hilltop. So I just think we should be actually more judicious and measured when we talk about
Mhm.
development, which really requires the planning commission and the city council not to rubber stamp stuff. And so it's kind of countering to what Garrett says. Sounds like he has maybe a development background potentially. But yeah,
Mhm.
so I'm not anti-development. I just look at downtown and the whole Reading, and we do have a lot of empty buildings.
Well, it may be not just quantity, but quality of what's there. Like somebody said, revitalizing and making them relevant to today's needs. That alone might spark things, and that be something we'd want to explore in the alternatives process. Let's see, Rebecca hasn't spoken yet.
Oh, I think when it comes to the specific plan and the environment, and specifically the riparian area, it is precisely to protect it in however it lasts 10,
Mhm.
20, 30 years. And definitely not for it to be up to whoever's calling the shots at that moment. So I definitely agree with Melissa.
Mhm. Okay, very good. Thank you. I think anything we haven't covered yet, Cameron, or additional point? Go ahead.
Back to the D41, the workforce housing. I didn't quite catch the comment made with regards to the workforce regarding what
Well, I think
that
Yeah, just not sure if we need to have the word workforce. It could be local community housing needs. Because
Yeah.
when I see the word workforce, I'm like, that could read different ways. Like we want to provide housing just for people working.
well, workforce with regards to housing has a specific definition.
Yeah.
And so it's generally speaking, it's between 100% and 150% of household median income. Basically what it is, it's middle-class housing, and it has a specific designation. What we've run into statewide and certainly citywide is we're getting a lot of state federal money coming in for affordable housing, low income projects. Developers are able to build houses in the for $500,000, $600,000, $700,000 range for upper end demographics. We are actually reducing our total stock of workforce housing, which is specific. It's a specific income class
Mhm.
that is, I mean, it's what it's generally used as. To me, middle class housing, probably the best example, a great example of workforce housing is the Kuchas Tract and Garden Tract neighborhoods. That is ideal workforce housing. We're talking 1,100 square foot homes, 3 1s, 3 2s. You know, probably in that median range of about $300,000 ish, right in there in today's market, which no developer is able to build, nor that the subsidies available to be able to build them like there is with affordable housing.
Mhm.
So, and lower income housing.
Mhm.
So I just want to point out, we want to keep it or not, that's a group discussion, but the workforce housing needs it's a specific
Yeah.
designation for a specific type, and really due to degradation of the properties, housing, some short-term rentals, other things, because zero are being built, where actually that total number of workforce is coming down, and it's squeezing and polarizing that housing stock
Mhm.
in 2 different directions. And those in the middle that are teachers, are grocery store clerks,
Police, fire.
everybody, they're not able
Yeah.
to afford to find that housing because the stock is
Yeah.
declining.
Well, maybe it's too premature to include that modifier, like Jocelyn was saying. We shouldn't overly specify that at this point in time. Maybe that's the answer for us, at least at this stage of discussion. Since we're-
On that, I would rather thank Cameron, thank you for specifying that. I would rather see workforce housing go in than low income housing, because the
Well, I think
area
that's what-
specifically to the end of
Sorry.
Park Marina, that southernmost part past Cypress Bridge is, I mean, my aunt used to live down there, but the people who live down there now would be lower income housing. That whole area has kind of taken a dive,
Mhm.
and we're trying to, there's sections that are trying to make it better, but it would be nice to have bring that back up and
Mhm.
have less low income housing down there.
Okay.
So I would rather see middle class workforce housing as opposed to low income housing.
Okay, well,
and I
earlier
know
you
that
said you wanted to take that word out.
no, I was saying I was a little confused because there had been talk about low income housing, and I don't want to see low income housing. And I know my neighbors don't want that either. And I was saying that low income housing can be flipped after a certain
Right.
statute of limitations to no longer be low income housing and be that middle class housing. So it's one of
Understood.
those, you know.
Okay,
But
well, I
just to,
think this
Josh-
conversation highlights that we need to look at the issue of housing in the context of a citywide housing needs analysis. So we're going to turn to
And
city
Jocelyn,
staff for that.
in regard to, I can speak to the affordable housing downtown. That will be affordable housing for 55 years. So it's nothing that turns over quickly, especially if they have tax credits and all of that.
Yeah. And I
But
was
the
gonna-
homes,
I-
the homes in this area that are right behind us, those did
Okay.
flip. So they are no longer low income housing.
Right.
The project went in for local families, you know, single parent homes to have a real home as opposed to,
Yeah,
you know.
no, we
and
understand that.
I have friends who lived in those homes. They flipped them. They're not low income housing anymore.
Yeah.
They are regular homes. So
But I
there's
think
not that project there.
Michelle brings up that there are ways of preventing that, or at least slowing that down. And so people have learned from those mistakes when it comes to preserving affordability over time. So there are ways to do that. Okay, Josh.
Really quick, sorry, I keep talking. This is a really important, you know, this section here it really kind of defines a lot of the what can be done type stuff.
Okay,
And so I'm kind of guess I'm piggybacking off of what Garrett said with it needs to be flexible, but I'm also thinking about the first meeting we had. Mr. Kutris made a comment about something along, let's do something fun. And I think that's a really important thing to remember that, fun, I don't want to put fun in a, you know, official document or anything like that.
right.
Yeah, right. Fun and ready, you know, but yeah, but enjoyment's a good word. You know, this conversation about, this is so legal and I'm a lawyer. And so I'm sitting here, I'm thinking we can tie ourselves in the knots about this stuff, but the reality is what we're trying to do is we're trying to do something that is fun and enjoyable and benefits the community.
It
So-
improves the conditions.
yeah, and I, you know, this language is legalistic and things like that, but I think it does a pretty good job of saying, look, we're going to do something and we're going to allow for things. That's the only comment I had. but,
Okay,
Um,
all
I'll
right.
stop talking.
Well, we'll take all of these comments to heart, and you can see Dan is taking notes. We are recording, so we have the record of the meeting to go back to, and we'll come up with some new language and we'll rediscuss it at the next meeting.
Hey,
Okay,
Daniel,
So
could I just add something for a minute?
Yes, Jeremy.
So when we were talking about this too at staff level, some of this does read a little bit like policy language. We're not there yet, you know, we're not to the crafting of goals and policy language that's in the document. So just one thing to consider.
Yeah.
Another 2 points I'd make is when it comes to the entitlement process and development as it occurs, right? This eventually will go to an appropriate like sort of land use diagram on what's allowed in this specific plan area. And so when you think about flexibility or not having flexibility, that comes alive in the document too, when there's certain uses that are prohibited or there are certain uses that are permitted by right, meaning our planning commission, our hearing bodies, our council doesn't have a say in it. It just goes straight to a building permit. And then there's something in between where a particular use might require a use permit or a site development permit. So there's ways when we get to policy language to sort of flesh this out more when we get further down the road. I just want you all to kind of be comfortable with that. When you really start talking about specific uses in the specific plan area, I think that's important too.
Mhm.
And also, in terms of locking us in for 20 or 30 years, there's also amendments to specific plans, right? So that can occur. It's a lot of work. I don't want to say we're going to amend a plan before we've created it. So that's not good. But recall that, I mean, that can happen if a big project comes in and a developer wants to look at a new specific plan or wants an amendment. That can go through the whole process too. So just a few little food for thought in terms of just clarifying some things I heard. So
Yeah, that's very helpful, Jeremy. Thank you. So this is a good discussion though, because it's highlighting the areas where we need to pay specific attention to, and we'll have a lot more conversations about, but we'll try to write this up, modifying it according to what we've heard here this evening, and try to incorporate all the comments here without forcing anybody's hand as we move through the process. Okay. All right, so a couple more areas to go here. And for some reason, my clicker is not clicking. So I guess I'll hit it here. Locked up, Dan. Let's see what's happening. Okay. I got it. Okay. All right, we talked about world-class recreation and activities. That's item E. Providing additional opportunities for boating, fishing, kayaking, and other on-the-water activities. Heard a lot of comments about that, even going back to our open house meetings. Promoting aquatic activities in areas that are accessible and safe. For example, where we have calmer water, warmer temperatures, away from boating. Promoting outdoor activities and connections to nature that support health and well-being. To leverage the Reading Riverfront as a base camp for outdoor enthusiasts visiting and regions outdoor destinations. Focus low impact activities within public areas and sensitive habitats, Northern Riverfront, Sacramento River, and more intense activities within private outdoor spaces and quarry ponds. So that's what we have under this category. Again, any comments, any missing pieces, any modifiers? Okay, so we do see recreation taking place here along the riverfront. So connected spaces. Mostly the same. We did add some changes there, as you see there in the green text. So expanding opportunities for people to connect with natural areas and the river, to enhance vehicle transit, bicycle and pedestrian connections from existing neighborhoods to the area in between major destinations. Identify ways to reconnect the northern and southern riverfronts, currently bisected by Highway 44. Identify parking locations, types, and management strategies to ensure that current and future uses and activities have adequate but not excessive parking. And then F5 was added, requiring new uses and spaces to be fully ADA accessible. Expand ADA accessible to and within existing uses in neighborhoods. And that's by law. So there's no option where ADA compliance is concerned, I should note. Any additional comments on this section? Okay, yes, Michelle and then Cameron.
The city of Reading and private developers have invested significant amounts into downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems like there is a natural importance to connect these two activities. So it seems like we should be connecting to our downtown.
Mm-hmm. Words to that effect.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Thank you. Cameron?
I think the tough part is, and I'd like to hear from the neighborhood representatives as well. It's always the difficult part, especially when we're talking about west of the riverfront area, the specific plan boundary over into downtown and downtown and through that Cypress area. Trouble is, you really have three primary corridors that go in that east-west direction. So you've got Butte Street, South Street, and then Locust. After that, it's Cypress.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know this is going to get way more into the weeds down the road. You want to have those, again, agree to have the connections available from the existing neighborhoods to the area. Absolutely. I just really want to make sure that the neighborhoods are heard. I mean, Butte Street is one thing.
Mhm.
Locust is another, and South Street is certainly a whole nother ballgame in terms of how those connections occur. I want to make sure, yeah, the connections are there, but also that they're being done wisely. I mean, you don't want to start pumping, you don't want to double or triple the amount of traffic down South Street.
Mhm.
That's going to create a whole new set of problems. You start, I know there's a lot of cut through traffic on Athens and some other spots.
Mhm.
So certainly the connection I think is critical, but I think making sure too that it's done appropriately, really
Mhm.
to a degree to the north and to the south. Gotta, maybe look at how we could do it. 'Cause we've got the ACID canal in between downtown and the
Mhm.
riverfront, which is kind of another one of our many barriers we have in town, whether it's the river, I-5, railroad, what have you.
Mhm.
ACID canal is kind of a critical one here as
Mhm.
well. So
So
I
we-
did see they had some comments.
Yeah, I think a more distributed system rather than trying to have all that traffic concentrated on one or two corridors. And also we talked about multimodal transportation that would hopefully decrease some of the auto trips, not knowing we can't completely reduce or eliminate them, but we can have a positive effect in emphasizing different modes of transportation. Melissa, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, a couple of comments to piggyback off of Michelle's, that it would be really important to add something to connect downtown to Park Marina to Turtle Bay. Just these three, they're all like sort of separate right now. And so I was but also just to add, there is an issue with traffic in the Garden Track. I live in Garden Avenue, right behind the Community Health Center, between Placer, which is another major street, and people plow down Garden Avenue to the point that my neighbor had to remind me that I put out a sign a couple years ago, "Go slow, bro. 20 is plenty." And I actually got a little aggro running after some truck that was like, it's an awesome street. We have sidewalks too. So yes, it is an issue. So we have to be mindful of that. I think also people cut through Garden to go to Yuba, to go to the hospital. We have I'm in an area that they just redid the specific plan for the downtown. And so I'm really now a part of the downtown area too. So there's no point just kind of adding, yes, there is an issue. And I think someone might be here that she'll talk about that a little bit more. So
You mentioned 20 is plenty. Aspen, Colorado, for their downtown, this maximum speed is 20 miles per hour. So they adopted that framework on the basis that it gives more priority to pedestrians and cyclists and, reduces the chance of fatalities associated with pedestrian vehicle collisions. So there are many movements along those lines out there. Garrett?
I just wanted to bring up that the city of Reading does have a capital project right now to bring a class 4 bikeway from Sundial Bridge Drive up Butte, down Continental, up Trinity Street to Market right there to tie into the existing project that they just did that tied basically downtown into the river trail there. So they are working on kind of tying all that together. And I believe I think it's but
Yeah, well, Jeremy, do you want to add information on that?
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, we could get more details for our subsequent meeting, but it is on the project drawings too that I sent. You'll see for the ATP project that connects Turtle Bay, the GAP project that I sent out to the coalition. That project connects Turtle Bay area over to Butte, and you'll see where that project picks up and goes into downtown. So the idea there is we're trying to connect downtown to the project area through this multimodal corridor. So yeah, and I believe on those drawings it says it's funded as well. So I'll do a little more work to get maybe more specifics, but yeah, largely I think that's correct.
And there will be a transportation element to the specific plan. We have a specific consultant also hired to work with us on that aspect. Okay, Jocelyn.
To kind of piggyback, Melissa, I'm on the corner of Athens and Park Marina. So people use Athens constantly and drive really fast. And actually, I witnessed a motorcycle crash that they couldn't make that corner. They were driving so fast, they went right into the fitness center and like right into the pool, broke the fence. So I mean, there's high-speed chases that are going down my street and between Park Marina and Athens both all the time. I mean, the helicopters are flying. I go outside in my backyard and I'm like, are you kidding? So the traffic really is a concern for me and my neighbors.
We've heard that through
Yeah.
every meeting, I think.
But I'm glad to know about thank you, Garrett, for speaking to the bike, because I was just gonna ask, like, I know that there was the request to have evacuation, you know, like behind Viking skate country or something along the so I was the funeral, you know, land. So I was gonna say, well, would it be possible to even take a bike lane up through there? Because actually, you know, riding through a graveyard is actually kind of a, for some people, a really cool, you know, thing, and it takes you right to downtown.
Okay.
And it's the same side, and then you're not crossing the bridge, because I actually have concerns for people walking across Park Marina, across the overpass. It's I mean, it's just not the safest, and
Right. Okay.
and people do it all the time. So I mean, it is, that overpass is something to look at in regards to safety and people walking across
Yeah,
those
okay.
streets.
I think we got
That
got
ATP project addresses that too, Jocelyn, across the overpass.
Okay, good. Thanks. Josh?
Really quick, I'm kind of thinking about what Michelle just said about, you know, downtown and, you know, connecting and things like that. And one of the things that I guess is on my mind, and the only word I can use to describe it is I don't want to see things that are duplicative of what we did downtown, all of a sudden becoming part of the Riverfront plan. So there needs to be coordination or whatever given to the fact that if we build an amphitheater downtown or a concert spot, we may not need that down on the river. So, so I don't know, connected spaces, how that fits in, but that's something we need to consider.
Okay, well, I think maybe you're saying, look, we don't have to cram everything we want in the city into
No.
the specific plan area. We have a whole city to work with.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we get it. Okay, memorable and vibrant places. And again, some language from last time and some additional points that you brought up, and we worked those in here. We talked about making the riverfront safe, visible, welcoming, and walkable. Consider community gathering spaces, community gardens, dog parks, market parks, outdoor music venues, public art was brought in here. Development regulations, design guidelines, and implementation strategies that are tailored specifically to the riverfront. To identify and address any constraints imposed by the state of California 2019 Surplus Lands Act. So again, a lot of concern about losing city-owned property and not losing that control. Leveraging this current specific plan and process to analyze the economic feasibility of a range of private projects, new development, recreation, et cetera, and identify public investment costs and grant funding opportunities that we can use to fund things like were mentioned there, ecosystem restoration, open space enhancements, et cetera. And then G6, we added, based on last meeting's discussion, identify opportunities for new public infrastructure and operations, funding mechanisms such as BIDs, community facilities district, or some type of tax increment financing district. Although we don't have redevelopment authority anymore in the state of California, that was eliminated. There are some other workarounds that might be considered as potential funding mechanisms. So any additional comments here that you want to make? Okay, that's good. That is G. And that is it in terms of the vision elements. I don't think we've left anything out there. We wanted to make sure we did leave commentary time for public members who are not on the coalition. So like we've done on previous meetings, we have cards if you want to make a comment here this evening. We have the podium, we have a microphone, and we have all ears. So if you want to fill those in, we'll collect them. We're giving everyone 3 minutes, and we want to make sure that all of you have a chance to address the group here this evening as part of our discussion. So I know it looks like, do we have any members of the community who are not on the coalition and wish to speak, why don't you come on up, sir? And we've got a microphone set up where Jeremy is. And we'll just take everybody in turn as we collect the cards. Okay. And Jeremy, is the microphone turned on?
It's on, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And it looks like a few more cards are coming in, so Jeremy will collect those. All right. Hold on a minute. Okay. All right, please go ahead, sir.
Like I just commented, I didn't necessarily want to go first. I get a little nervous at speaking, but feel like I need to say a couple of things. So, and then the time. Okay, cool. Uh, my name's Giovanni Aguilar. I go by Joe. We just moved up here a little over a year ago now from SoCal, and definitely feel like there's a lot of opportunities up here, a lot of potential. I will say though that one of the first things, or I think before I say anything, is the frustration coming up here, and what I've been listening to videos, you know, watching you guys on YouTube, and I think this has been mentioned multiple times, but definitely worth mentioning again, is the homeless problem, and then what comes along with that, just the safety of going anywhere in this place. And we've lived pretty much everywhere, I think in SoCal, and it's not as intense over here. And we have homeless, but not to this level. Literally, from me being down here, in the short time that I've been in, someone swung a shovel attached to a rope at my direction, and yeah, and I've experienced a lot of things in this short time frame. With that being said, before we're looking at any of these types of things, of course, just to have that in mind. But as I was saying, in the better things, is that there's a lot of potential here, as you guys are speaking about. So the first thing that I think we can, one of the things I wanted to mention was that solar panel carports. I think that's definitely something we should look at. That's what we do. That's what we have down there in our city. We put that everywhere, essentially, and we have a lot of heat down here versus down there. So I think why not, you know? And then a better use of open grass areas, specifically in front of the civic auditorium. I feel like it's just grass, as well as where the Kutras Bird Park area, I think maybe you guys mentioned that little open space there. If it has a purpose, like benches, something there, grasses, some kind of purpose, not just grass. I never find a purpose for just open lawn, you know. So if you can put a garden, something, you know, not native grasses, there's something, some type of relevance. Also, the Reading Rodeo area. At first, initially, I was thinking about, okay, let's go ahead and move it. Why? You know, there's a better use there for water area. But hearing all of your guys' points of views actually swayed me the other way, because I was thinking, why not put it off the 5? That makes sense. You know, it has more access. A lot of people go through there. But actually having it there, my time ran out. I don't know if I should stop speaking or I don't know.
Go ahead. You can.
All right.
Wrap it up.
So with that, I think more multi-purpose use and building out the rodeo area, actually improving a lot more. And like they were saying, working within each other with the rodeo grounds and the civic center, and sharing that parking area, I think is really important to. I think it's better to do that, because we can attract more tourism and more venues there. So just more multi-purpose than what it's used for now. And I have been to the powwow and a few of I wanted to go to the rodeo. We weren't able to go because my whole family hadn't moved down here yet and wanted to go with them. Not by myself. I was only here by myself first, and now everyone's over. So, but yeah, that's pretty much, yeah, that's pretty much it for now. Yeah.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming forward. We appreciate that.
Aaron Galway.
High enough? There you go. My name's Aaron Galway, longtime resident of Reading. My family's been here almost 40 years, most of my life. We operated a business on Park Marina for those 40 years. And so what would be one of my first points is it doesn't seem that there's a ton of other business entities other than the two represented here that are kind of included in the meeting outside of the public comment. And it would be nice to see more interaction with them just to kind of get their input and hopefully include them in the potential growth or the change. Another point is the open space, and everyone here is a proponent of it, it seems, myself included, as an avid outdoorsman who uses the river through that area on a weekly basis, to say the least. And looking at the map, everything on the east side is already pretty much all public. Anything that's accessible is already public space or open space. And then checkerboard that with the entire north portion, and thought in talking about the open space, the park view, you guys stopped at Cypress Bridge, but that's definitely an area that is public space, open space. It is already an established park that should have been or could be added into the plan that would meet a lot of the things that people are looking for. But that being said, with that open space, it requires people to be able to enforce the laws to keep the homeless out of there. I mean, Joe, I think he said his name was, I mean, any corridor along the river, especially if you see it by boat, is covered in transient camps or the trash associated with it. And even on the river trail, and I mean, I know RPD works hard to keep them out of there and they do their part, but that being said, they are limited, and it would require more funding for them to be able to help keep those areas where people are safe or they feel safe. Henderson Open Space, or I guess it's Norpond now, it is better than it used to be, but it is still not assessed or accessed by most of the people, just because they fear for their, whether it be their safety or their well-being, because of the homeless and the drugs and the things that are there. Same with the park right here. I mean, it's a beautiful area. It has great fishing access, but the general public does not want to go down there and see the homelessness and the trash associated with it. And so hopefully there's a way to address that. And basically,
All right.
I apologize.
No, very
Thanks.
good. Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming out this evening, and we thank you for your comments. Okay.
Joyce Crowder?
Speaking of good lighting, which somebody spoke about earlier, it would be nice if our city hall had decent lighting for evening meetings like this. When you park out there in the dark and walk up here in the dark, it's just a little bit sketchy.
Yeah. All right. Well taken.
And we're close enough to the river, I could say that, I guess. I am one of the things that came to my mind for the homes that are facing the river in the Garden Tract area. There are many cities that have their main travel thoroughfare, and then there's a dividing segment that's got trees and stuff in it. And then there's a road for the residents to access their neighborhood. I would like to suggest that be put in the thought processes. I know that if I lived there, and I did live there once, that it would be nice to have an access road to my subdivision so that I didn't have to worry about getting off of that thoroughfare. And especially when you talk about, you're thinking about 3 lanes and bicycle trails, that would certainly, there's enough width there to take care of that. My other comment was simply that there are already a lot of very big buildings on the southern portion. I know that they're business buildings, medical buildings, whatever you want to call them. And I think most people don't want to see more big buildings. I think we need smaller things, if any. And I, for one, would like
a way to put my feet in the water somewhere. It's so nice to have such a beautiful river and not be able to put your toes in.
Mhm.
Thank
Okay,
you.
very good. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming this evening. We have the next speaker.
Good evening. I appreciate all of you serving on this committee and the time you've committed. It's a big commitment. I've kind of watched it online, the lazy way, and watched part of it that first hour this tonight. But what was said about the civic was really relevant as far as bringing people in. Was I had a table up there. We were invited by a rock group, and we had people signing. We had a tree ordinance. And we had people signing for it that were from like Woodland and up in Oregon, no, this is just for Reading residents. So they do bring in a wide, I was surprised, it's quite a drive. But anyway, I'm concerned about, the riparian areas and having setbacks. And if you walk up from the Cypress Street Bridge, there's some new buildings there. 40 years ago, it was like a vacant lot and some of it's filled. But what's been done there is they've let the buildings get the trail, like a 10-foot wide concrete trail, is in fatal places as close as 10 feet from the bank, whereas the general plan calls for 75-foot setback. And one of the buildings is like 45 feet from the river. So I just think it's really important because there's just no habitat, and that's why you have fish there, is if you have all those shrubs and whatnot on the side of the creek, on the side of the river. The new general plan, I just happened to notice something because I called up a friend of mine who knows considerable amount about planning, and on their map, it does say this is a proposed general plan that water-oriented commercial projects in the Cypress Avenue, Park Marina, and Convention Center areas, which may have reduced setbacks. It's kind of an incomplete sentence, but anyway, I don't want to see, I want to see as much open space, vegetation along the river, and not have trails like right up next to the river. And I would kind of disagree with the gentleman before. I know the homeless issue is a real problem here, but I led a field trip at Newer Pond. Actually, I led a number of them, but a couple months ago, I led one. I went down there a couple times early to kind of see what plants were blooming. And I was surprised at all the people that were there. And a lot of them were elderly women. Seems like there was more women than men. And then when I led the field trip, it was on the weekend and there were quite a few people there. So it can be, something can be done about it. And the city did a great job with that as far as Newer Pond goes. Anyway, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Great. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
Shirley?
Hi, I'm Shirley. I've lived in this community, raised my kids here. I want to thank you all. One of the big words I hear was the word fun. That's something that actually was fun, interesting thing of, because I never think of Park Marina as fun. So I'm really excited to hear that word. That just frightened me when I heard that word fun. I've heard in the past from old timers that the Park Marina used to be a really fun place. That I guess they used to have a miniature golf thing or something there, and some other really cool things way back. So that'd be really great to bring some of that back. Somebody else spoke about art. I'm not sure if they were talking about maybe down by the Civic Center, that area, but maybe having some local art along Park Marina, something that would brighten it up, kind of cheer the drive. I love the lady's idea. I wanted to make my, she beat me to it, suggest the idea of having a separated roadway for the current residents, small lane where they have some pretty trees, put the bike path there, something that, would make it safe for the people in that community from the road, the high-speed Park Marina Road. So I thought that was really kind of cool. And I love to kayak. So something that would, and kayaking is a big thing. It brings in a lot of people to our community. I volunteer up at Whiskey Town. So I know that a lot of people kayak because they come up there, and that's a big thing for our community. Something we could sponsor some kayak events, have it down by the river. That's a big draw. So having a nice access for kayakers, maybe right a park close to the shore, protect the riparian area, but have a park right there and invite people to come and picnic and have kayaking and that kind of thing. So, just some ideas. Thank
Okay.
you.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming.
Okay, Aaron Moreland.
Hi there, my name is Aaron Moreland. I've been a Reading resident for a little over a year. Just want to thank the coalition for all your time in the discussion. I think the city and MIG did a great job putting together a diverse group of business owners and community members, and you're very well represented. So just credit to you all for that. I just wanted to bring up, kind of drive home the point on multimodal transportation, not only within the specific plan area along the riverfront, but to and from. Because if this kind of gets half throttled on having adequate access for cyclists and for pedestrians, and there is some increase in development with either multifamily housing or additional restaurants or entertainment, you will have a parking nightmare. And there is a lot of parking around the rodeo grounds and the civic auditorium, but some of that space may get redeveloped, into additional facilities. So I just want to make sure that we keep multimodal access. Sorry, I'm getting a little nervous up here.
You're good.
Into the riverfront specific area. It seems like the north end of the riverfront is going to be well connected. We already have the Sundial Bridge and the Sacramento River Trail, and then the new project connecting from Trinity Street to the bikeway on the north end of California Street. That is going to connect the north end, but South Street and Cypress Avenue both need to be adequate pedestrian and cyclist avenues to get into the area, just to facilitate some way to get to this new community center that we're trying to put together, other than just bringing your car and parking it somewhere. And if you make the roads a little wider, which I don't think is going to happen, if you keep building parking lots, like that will kind of induce the vehicle traffic that a lot of people express that they don't want to see. And environmentally, you get PM 2.5 air pollution from tires and combustion being a big driver. So reducing the amount of vehicle load in this area is going to really help with the project. So thank you all for your time.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thanks for coming.
That's all I had. Did I miss anyone from our public comment this evening? That concludes public comment.
Okay, well, let's give a hand to all of our public speakers who came up here. Thank you very much. And everybody listening online, just to remind you, we're going to have coalition meeting number 4, November 20th, same place, same time. And a city council meeting is still to be determined. We think it'll be in December. We'll have to work with the city clerk to schedule that event. We'll hopefully want to have the coalition members present to also help in presenting our vision framework to the city council. And we're looking for them to comment and give us further direction and hopefully set the stage for the work on the specific plan. Did want to also make sure that everybody listening in and also here in the room, we can access the Reading Riverfront website. You can scan the barcode and get right into it. So make sure your friends and neighbors know about that. And again, thank you very much for coming out this evening. We're going to keep this process going, another iteration next time, and we'll make your comments integrated into this last version. And hopefully we'll just get closer to what it should look like and hopefully receive your endorsement here as a coalition, remembering that this is a framework to set in motion the specific plan, and a lot more work is going to follow. So everybody have a great evening. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. See you next time.